the eastern boundary of Sheffield, and empty tanks, on their way to the cement works at Hope, come under the M1 viaduct and head into Meadow Hall. The Supertram heads into the terminus as the empty tanks pass through platform 1. An overall view of the interchange, with a Voyager through platform 1 on its way to Sheffield, the defunct cooling towers of the once Blackburn Meadows power station overlooking all, and running into platform 1, a Class 153 unit drops off passengers as another Class 153 pulls into platform 2, bound for Scarborough. Rushing through platform 1, a Virgin Voyager set passes Winkerbank Junction and heads for Sheffield. On the right, the lines for Barnsley. A quarter mile after passing Winkerbank Junction, the Voyager set approaches Brightside Station. Brightside Station closed a few years ago, and the one-time access from the footbridge to the platforms is blocked off. Note the lifted track bed under the wall on the far left. Empty stone hoppers heading for the limestone quarries at Peak Forest past the one-time Brightside Junction and then the gaunt black buildings of the former Firth Vickers steelworks. More empty hoppers heading for Peak Forest. These for carrying crushed limestone, used in power station furnace flue desulfurization. A couple of miles from Brightside, the line crosses over a goit running into the River Don by Sanderson's Weir, and then half a mile later crosses over the Don at Norfolk Bridge by Burton Weir. and the other side of Norfolk Bridge, looking downriver. Another quarter mile, and the railway crosses over the Sheffield and Chinley Canal. In the distance, the Royal Victoria Hotel, once the pride of the Great Central Railway. And under the bridge, which carried the former Great Central Railway, now just a single freight-only line to the steelworks at Stocksbridge, then under the parkway linking Sheffield to the M1 motorway. Passing through Nunnery Junction. Standing on the bridge, carrying the former Great Central lines, as a train of empty bin liner containers for the Manchester area head towards Sheffield Station, going first under a bridge which once carried the line from Nunnery Colliery, second under the Sheffield Parkway, and third under the Supertram tracks. A multiple unit from Lincoln joins the Midland line at Nunnery. The empty tanks, bound for the cement works at Hope, head under the Sheffield Parkway and pass Nunnery Junction. The eastern approach to Sheffield Station has high stone walls on either side. Next stop for the Supertram, the railway station. The Virgin Voyager heading south runs into platform 6.
Please listen for further announcements.
The empty tanks, now run by platform 6, on their way to the cement factory at Hope. A brief look at the rear entrance to the station and the Supertram stop. This Supertram, after stopping at the station, will run parallel with the railway before climbing steeply away to its terminus at Halfway. The Supertram climbs away and heads for Halfway as a Virgin Voyager from Chesterfield heads into the southern cut and cover tunnel for Sheffield Station. A short time later, this train of ex-National Power hoppers heads for Peak Forest. This London-bound HST set is 2 miles out of Sheffield, and on the rising gradient heads south towards Dore Station Junction. A little further up the line, and after an overnight fall of light snow, another St Pancras bound HST set heads towards Dore Junction. Quickly followed by a Virgin Voyager set on its way to Bristol. Now the Voyager passes the site of the once Beachiff Station and runs up past Dore Station Junction, heading south by taking the line to Chesterfield. Next, this unit up from Norwich passes the one-time Beachiff Station, and the only survivor is the station master's house. At Dore Station Junction, the unit swings off right to take the Hope Valley line. Destination Liverpool. On the curve south to Chesterfield, the single platform of Dore Station on the left. The one-time booking office, now an Indian restaurant. Viewed from Dore platform, the Voyager heads up towards Bradway Tunnel and Chesterfield. Waiting for the all stations to Sheffield from Manchester Piccadilly. Away to Chesterfield, Dore Station on the left. Now on all stations to Manchester leaves Dore Station and climbs up towards Totley Tunnel. Totley Tunnel box situated half a mile from the tunnel mouth. Inside the box is the splendid Midland frame of 12 levers. Coming round the curve from Dore station is train 6M89, the empty cement tanks from Dewsbury to Wales sidings at Hope. The empty cement is soon followed by train 6M17, the empty RMC limestone hoppers from Leeds to Peak Forest. Now the Norwich-Liverpool rushes past the box and up to the tunnel mouth, as train 6M85, the loaded lime hoppers from Tunstead to Ratcliffe Power Station, eases down the gradient past the box, under the footbridge, away to Dore West Junction. This is followed by train 6E52, stone from Peak Forest to Peterborough. The drain on the left of the track carries water which has seeped into the tunnel from Totley Moss. The water is drained into the River Sheaf by Dore Station. More water. This aqueduct spanning the railway midway between the signal box and tunnel mouth carries the water of the old Hay Brook into the River Sheaf. Above, and close to the tunnel mouth, is the Crown Inn. The Liverpool to Norwich unit comes under the aqueduct and down to the box. The box is obscured by the grey bridge, which carries electric cables over the track. telephoto view from the Crown Inn of the empty cement tanks heading for Earl's Sidings, and then a view off the aqueduct. The tunnel is over 3.5 miles long, and this is number 4 ventilation shaft. The first 4 shafts are all within 3/4 mile of the tunnel entrance and sunk into semi-agricultural land, and all below 750-foot altitude. The shaft's internal diameter is 15 feet, and brindle brick was used in the construction. This is number 5 shaft, the only shaft on the High Moorland. The Duke of Rutland, who owned the moss, stated that the smoke from the steam engines might disturb his grouse. Thus only this one shaft was to be built on the moss. Number 5 shaft is 1,300 feet above sea level, and the depth to the railway lines below over 750 feet. The western portal of Totley Tunnel. The platforms of Grindleford Station are just a few yards from the tunnel mouth. The old stations to Manchester Piccadilly halts. Grindleford, like all the other stations in the Hope Valley, has lost all of its original platform buildings. However, here at Grindleford at least, the original booking office still remains, now a cafe and popular stop-off for hikers and ramblers. The empty cement tanks pass Grindleford signal box. The Norwich-Liverpool rushes through and passes the signal box. The one-time Midland Railway Terrace. Now at Grindleford box, the outer home signal is off for the empty cement tanks. Once again the outer home is off, this time for the empty RMC hoppers, bound for Peak Forest. A quarter mile after the box, the RMC empties enter a long straight. Out of Padley Woods and the long straight, the line now curves around on an S-bend into Hathersage. Looking down from the Sheffield Hathersage road, the RMC hoppers negotiate the S-bend just before running through Hathersage. Through Hathersage, the line passes above this charming cottage on a 7-arch stone viaduct. The line now runs on another long straight, the 1.5 miles to Bamford Station. The old stations to Manchester Piccadilly stops opposite the one-time station master's house. Immediately after leaving the station, the unit crosses over the River Derwent on Mytham Bridge. The bridge is of riveted girder construction, typical of the late Victorian period. Starting to rain, so back to Bamford Station to have my sandwiches, as train 6M17, the empty RMC hoppers, rushes through. M17 then goes over the Derwent. Loess Hill in the background. . Half a mile after crossing the river, train 6M89, the empty cement, goes under the road bridge at Thornhill. The chimney of the cement works, far left. Now Hope Station, whose only remaining redeeming feature is the elegant footbridge. A Handyside, 1894, Derby and London. The old stations to Manchester continues its journey up the Hope Valley, and looking down from an escarpment, one can see that the cement works and associated limestone quarrying are an integral part of this landscape. Nearly a mile after Hope comes Earl's Sidings, the railway sorting sidings for the nearby works of Blue Circle Cement. Earl's Sidings box. Perhaps at one time it had a pitched roof. This video is compiled of scenes taken in 2005. However, 22 years earlier, in 1983, I was invited into the box and allowed to take these colour slides of the frame and diagram. Train 6M89, empty cement tanks from Dewsbury. A blue circle shunting engine is waiting to haul the empty tanks to the cement works. But first, the Freightliner locomotive will push into two holding sidings the empty tanks. The shunter, a Bobo diesel hydraulic, built in 1990 by Hunslet Barclay of Kilmarnock, carries the nameplate Blue John. Blue John now hauls empty tanks from one of the two holding sidings up to the cement factory, the line 1.5 miles long and owned by Blue Circle Cement. The top end of Earl's sidings and on all stations to Manchester passes, heading for Edale, its next stop. Now the Norwich-Liverpool passes, as a Freightliner locomotive Class 66 backs onto full cement tanks, forming train 6J91, bound for Eccles, Lancashire. Now train 6M34, empty Hanson hoppers, from Acton to Peak Forest. Locomotives are often stabled at Earl's sidings, and here is 66552. Now the line climbs Norman's Bank. Just past Norman's Bank, train 6J91, Earls to Eccles, approaches Clough Farm. And away to Edale, 2 miles up the line. To Norwich to Liverpool. And in the opposite direction, an unidentified train, probably from Peak Forest or Tunstead, for one of the Trent power stations. Four days later, and Edale was a winter wonderland. Half a mile out of Edale comes this 4-arch stone viaduct spanning Crowden Brook and the road up to Upper Booth. Another half mile, and looking down from above the tunnel mouth, at the eastern end of Cowburn Tunnel. Now an unidentified freight approaches the tunnel. Time to pack up my camera gear and go home, I think. A few days later, the snow had all disappeared, and this view is of the western Cowburn tunnel mouth. Then a tramp across the moors to view the castellated stone structure of number 2 ventilation shaft. I never have found number 1 shaft. It was dodgy enough getting to this, the number 2 shaft. On a rising gradient of 1 in 150, this loaded stone train enters the western portal. And now running west, empty hoppers. The head of the train is approaching Chinley East Junction, whilst the tail end passes milepost 172 3/4. Looking back from this point is the farm track overbridge, from which the views of the tunnel mouth were taken. The approach to Chinley East Junction and the junction. Full cement tanks head north for Chinley and Eccles. (6069) up from Peak Forest awaits the right of way. (6069) heads off for Cowburn Tunnel, a mile away. Train 6M17 from Leeds now approaches and swings off left to cross the 13-arch stone viaduct at Chapel Milton. Destination Peak Forest, or more particularly, the RMC Roadstone quarry at Dove Holes. Train 6M17 from Leeds heads for Peak Forest. The rear viaduct carries the line from Manchester to Peak Forest. The two lines join at Chinley, South Junction, 1 mile left of picture. Immediately after the viaduct, the train goes over the recently constructed Chapel Only Frith bypass. The convergence of the two viaducts seen from a farm track overbridge. The left line to and from Manchester, the right to and from Sheffield. Milepost 168 on the parapet of the bridge over the Chapel bypass. Looking south from the other side of the overbridge, left the bidirectional line to and from Sheffield, right bidirectional Manchester. Coming off the viaduct, a train of stone empties from the Sheffield direction, bound for Peak Forest. The locomotive goes over the Chapel Only Frith bypass. And from the Manchester direction, some type of ballast machine. Next, loaded limestone from the Peak Forest area approaches and goes over the viaduct in the Sheffield direction. Now loaded limestone from the Peak Forest area towards Manchester, and the signal is at green for Peak Forest. will two trains cross? Yes, they will. Ex-National Power Hoppers. The train heads towards Chinley South Junction, which is just around the corner. Just before the junction, the train passes by the Ferodo brake lining factory and milepost 167 3/4. Just after the junction, the freight only line runs through Chapel Arnley Frith over the Chapel to Macclesfield Road on a plate girder bridge. Next, a couple of stone bridges. The Class 66 Freightliner locomotive is halted at signals prior to entering the shorter of two tunnels. The first tunnel is just 104 yards long and takes the Midland line under the former LNW line, which runs from Buxton to Stockport. Now into the short tunnel, train 6M17. the other end of the tunnel, and a unit from Buxton approaches Chapel-on-le-Frith station. In a sheep pasture by the freight line is a forged iron Midland Railway marker. Only a quarter mile separates the two tunnels, and this view is of the northern portal of the 1 3/4 mile long Duffholes Tunnel, which carries the Midland line to Peak Forest. Out of the tunnel under the L&W line. And into the 1 3/4 miles long tunnel, named after the village it burrows under, Duffholes. "30 minutes later, and a train of empty four-wheeled wagons heads towards Peak Forest. Close to the southern end of the 1 3/4 miles long Duffholes Tunnel is number 1 ventilation shaft. Looking down from above the southern portal of Duffholes Tunnel, as a stone train enters the tunnel and heads north for Chapel-on-le-Frith. Trains coming out of the tunnel, heading south for Peak Forest, are confronted by this fixed distant board. The rear of the train is now passing its destination, the RMC Roadstone Duffholes Quarry. Train 6M17, now at the one-time Peak Forest station. Locomotive 60026 pushes its wagons off the main running line up into the quarry. The old station building acts as a train crew depot, and EWS have facilities here. A Class 60 runs down to be stabled in the dead-end sidings behind the surviving box, Peak Forest South. A view of the front of the box with the dead-end sidings behind. Now 66022 gets the right of way on the northbound running line and comes up from the Great Rocks direction with a rake of loaded ex-national power hoppers. Passing the refuelling point where 60051 is being refueled. The closing shot shows a trainload of ballast running south past Peak Forest station and box. The train is heading the half-mile towards the next single box at Great Rocks. But Great Rocks is another story.